All right, let's dive right in. If you're a creative director or really anyone working in media production, you know the grind. That endless loop of exporting files, the last minute change requests, that constant low grade panic that a typo is going to make it to the big screen. Well, what if you could just stop? Today, we're talking about a huge shift in how we think, moving away from being a file factory and becoming a true system architect. I mean, this quote just hits the nail on the head, right? We're on a treadmill. Every single time a new series starts or a new event pops up, it means exporting hundreds of individual PNGs. You know the drill. Lower thirds, names, sermon points, and the very second a color needs a tiny tweak or a name is spelled wrong, you're right back on that treadmill, starting the whole manual process all over again. It is a massive time suck and a huge bottleneck for any creative team. So the solution here isn't just some new shiny piece of software, it's a whole new mindset. For years, we've been stuck acting like file delivery drivers, just constantly reacting and exporting. The new way? It's about becoming a system architect. You design an intelligent, branded system once. You set the rules, and then you let the system do the heavy lifting. The handoff to your production team becomes completely seamless. Honestly, it's pretty much invisible. So how in the world do we make this big architectural shift happen? Well, it's all powered by a new open standard that is totally changing the game for the entire broadcast and live production world, and it's called OGraf. Okay, so what is OGraf? It stands for Open Graphics, and at its core, it's just an open file format with a set of APIs. Think of it like a universal language that lets different programs talk to each other super easily. Now, what gives this so much credibility is who's behind it. The European Broadcasting Union, the EBU. So, this isn't some startup's little side project. It's a huge industry-wide movement to standardize how high-end graphics get made and used. So what's the big secret here? How does this all actually work? Well, it's actually kind of beautiful in its simplicity. With this system, your graphics are no longer these static, dead things like a PNG or a JPEG. Instead, I want you to think of every single graphic, every lower third, every title, as its own tiny, dynamic, high-end web page. Once you get that concept, everything else just clicks into place. And this is how you, the designer, keep total control of the brand. First, you set the rules for your brand just one time, using CSS. If you're not familiar, CSS is basically the style guide for the entire internet. It's where you define the exact fonts, colors, and layouts. Then, your design software, whether it's Photoshop or After Effects, is set up to automatically update the master files every time you hit save. And here's the real magic. The live graphics on screen, because they're web pages, are basically watching for those updates and they change instantly. No delay. Okay, so let's see how this actually translates into a real practical workflow. We're going to follow the whole process step by step from the designer's desk all the way to the live screens. Check this out. Phase 1. The creative director updates a master Photoshop or After Effects file and just hits save. That's it. No exporting. The assets just update automatically. Phase 2. A production volunteer, maybe someone with a zero design skill, just types plain text, a name, a stat, a lyric, into a super simple interface. This is what makes it volunteer-proof. They literally can't touch the design. Phase 3. The brain of the system takes that raw text and merges it with your beautiful template, automatically applying all your brand rules. And finally, Phase 4. The perfect, on-brand graphic just appears live on all your outputs. And the best part? If there's a typo, someone just fixes it in the text box and it's corrected on air instantly. Game changer. Now, this is a super important point. This is an open standard, not a walled garden. Because OGraf is built to be a modular ecosystem, you get to use the design tools you already know and love. Whether your team lives in After Effects for motion graphics or Photoshop for stills, you can create templates that plug right into the system. You choose your tools. No one is forcing you into a new workflow. Okay, so we've covered the how, but now for the most important part, the why. What's the real payoff for you and your team? Well, it all boils down to two incredible things: a brand that is permanently locked down and creativity that is finally unlocked. Let's start with the most obvious win: absolute, insane efficiency. Just think about it for a second. You completely eliminate the need to export hundreds of individual files. A single click of the Save button updates graphics everywhere, all at once. This reclaims hours and hours of your designer's time from that mind-numbing repetitive work and it lets them stop being file managers and start being the creative system architects you hired them to be. Benefit number 2 is, well, it's a game changer for anyone who obsesses over brand consistency: locked visual integrity. By using web technologies like CSS, your brand's typography and color palette are literally hard-coded into the template itself. It becomes impossible, and I mean impossible, for a well-meaning volunteer to accidentally use the wrong font or some off-brand shade of blue. This means you can maintain pixel-perfect brand standards across every campus, every stream, every single channel. And finally, you get this incredible real-time flexibility that just wasn't possible before. A speaker adds a new point mid-presentation? No problem. A volunteer types it in, and poof, the graphic appears instantly, perfectly on brand. And it gets even better. The templates are smart. You can build rules right into the design so that if a line of text gets too long, the template automatically and gracefully scales the font size to fit. No more awkward text wrapping or frantic last-minute design fixes. So right about now, you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great in theory, but is anyone actually doing this? Is it proven? And the answer is a huge, resounding yes. Let's take a look at who's already made this exact shift. Yeah, this is not some niche experimental idea. We're talking about the biggest names in media. Major broadcasters like the BBC and ESPN are using this HTML-based standard to push live stats and news across all their platforms. Global brands like Riot Games use it to guarantee pixel-perfect branding for their massive esports events. And huge multi-site organizations like Life Church and Elevation are using this exact template thinking to maintain incredibly high brand standards across literally hundreds of locations, all with minimal effort. So the key takeaway here is this. This isn't some future trend you need to start preparing for. This is the operational standard the professional industry is already using. Adopting this way of thinking isn't about taking a risk on something new. It's about catching up to the proven, more efficient, and frankly, more creative way of working. So I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. Take a hard look at your team's current process. The bottlenecks, the frustrations, all that time wasted on manual exports, and then ask yourself, how could shifting your mindset from delivering files to architecting a system truly transform your entire creative workflow?